cases, the multicultural aspect of of society. And I would like to congratulate you for putting or placing that literature, that nature of literature, in the open for other people to see and read. So hopefully, as we launch this book, it's not just your story; it's a lesson for a lot more. And I towards the end, I can see how your tone in the story of the barren womb becomes more flexible. You kind of get to 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 deal with situations. You coming to England, I think this you show the movement of you now from one environment to another environment, but still the situation does appear. So it becomes a lesson, yeah, not only from one culture, but it cuts across cultures, and other cultures begin to not only sympathize but also compare, with different situations. They may not experience the barrage of questions that come from the husband's side of things from our African perspective, but they may have the silent, way of doing things. But the tears that you bring in your book are a very good lesson. So hopefully, as you launch this book to greater heights or to a wider audience, I want to just say I found it really cross-cutting, and I hope the more we read it again and again, the more we begin to see, wow, really, this there are some very good lessons, especially about attitudes, yeah, that comes out through.
Thank you.
So that's my congratulatory kind of comment for you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Lovely. Thank you so much for that. Definitely, I think we can all agree to what you said. It really is going to change a lot of conversations, which is always welcome. I think Gladys had a hand up. I want to give you the opportunity to speak. Gladys?
Okay, thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can, Tete.
Okay, first I would like to say congratulations to my sister for writing the book. To both of you, because I can see you standing together, you're supporting each other in this journey, and I'm proud of you both. Then I just want to comment that I haven't read the book, so maybe my question will have been covered in the book. Because earlier on you made a comment that you never sat down with parents on both sides to really discuss this issue. So I just wanted to ask if you were to give advice to like families, I'm part of your family, like families who go through these challenges, how do you think they would have to tackle this issue? How would families get involved? How would siblings, how would fathers or mothers support or help people going through this problem? Maybe it's answered in the book. Sorry, I haven't read it, but I will read it. Definitely, I'm going to read it. So that is my question.
Okay. Thank you, Tete. That is not in the book in terms of sitting with parents, but from my point of view, I think it will be really, really helpful for parents to sit and say, is there anything we can do to help? Can we discuss this? Because it's not just on the issue of infertility. It's basically, I think, in the issue of marriage, because yes, we had hierarchies in the Zimbabwean culture of who to report when you have problems, marital problems and things like that. but that hierarchy has since been destroyed by the movement of people, whether people moved from the rural to urban, whether people moved from urban to abroad. So we are now so dismantled, possibly, Tete, Tete Rutendo is in the States. So can you imagine you want to have somebody who is on the ground to try and solve your issues? You can't be, calling somebody who is in Japan to do that. So as it is, I think if parents could sit, I think we need to maybe open up. Culture is supposed to evolve according to environment. And at the moment, the environment is no longer what it was, where rural everybody is there and you just have to go to the next house to go and call Tete to come in and solve your issues. But I feel parents should be involved, because if we don't, then we don't know what the children are doing, which is also a disadvantage. And possibly then we'll now start learning it from books like this. Then we start thinking, what could we have done, or what could, be done? Otherwise, we are supposed to be able to do that now, so that those who have any problems can have help, because once it starts from the parents, it means maybe siblings will be able to come, instead of possibly people who are maybe young children coming to tell you things in idioms. If I say "Sumone madimikira," maybe, in idioms, they will come and drop words. Then you are left wondering whether this was discussed somewhere where I wasn't, or it's not good for my mental health, because now I'm going to start thinking, so what else are they talking about me? What else are they saying? And I think when you read the book, you'll find I did talk about, a battlefield in the mind, the war in the mind, because the war in the mind is actually the thoughts. And those thoughts all stem from the many voices which will be coming in. The noises, the shouting you hear in there. You start creating some thoughts at times which are not very good. That's what actually will drive you into depression. And most of the time, even I don't care if I die, because it's not good, because voices are coming from everywhere else. But if we open it up and it goes there, then there's nothing which is possibly going to be jumping in and out, because this is a story which we are walking that journey together. That's my feeling. I don't know how Hani will address that.
Okay, thank you very much for the question, Sigile. And I think to complement what she has said, I think it should also start from your home, the affected couple, whereby you talk about it and you open up to each other as much as you can. It may eventually result in you being a different wavelengths, but the fact that you have opened up would enable you to find ways in which you can try to resolve the issue. And related to your question, then the issue of the parents would come in, because when we go and communicate and talk to them, at least the two of us have discussed it, and this is what we would like to discuss with them. And with the evolving of the family structure, I think as much as possible, if parents are more flexible, we manage the traditional aspects whereby such issues could not be talked with your father or with your mother directly. You had to go via other senior members of the family, like the aunt, for example, or the eldest nephew in the family. And if we become a bit more flexible, it makes it easier to accommodate changes of the way in which we live now. So as a complement, the two of you take off and eventually communicate with the parents.
Great, thank you for that.
Maybe I wanted to add something.
Yes, sure, you can go ahead.
Maybe because I'm family, I also wanted to find out, because now there's two sides, the side of my brother and my sister, then the side of the family. Sometimes maybe as families, is it possible that they might not know how to act
Can I comment on that?
Or is it?
If you, well, please finish off.
I mean, I'm just like, from your experience, is it possible that maybe, you know, families might not know how to act, maybe they might not know how to, maybe this, like me, let's say, because you'll be having children and your brother or your sister don't have children, is there a possibility that you might not know how to act? Probably you try to celebrate your children and the others might think, you know, something like that. Is it possible?
I was going to comment and say, I think I definitely echo your comments. You may find within the family some people are not very sure how to communicate with this particular couple
Yes.
and how to assist them.
Yes.
Especially the younger ones. They will find it very difficult for them to approach you and say, we've observed this, can we suggest this as much as possible? And even the affected couple may not find it very easy to interact with the rest of the family as much as possible
Exactly.
to assist each other. I think it's a situation whereby if you cannot rely with the supposed family structure you had, which you are supposed to take advantage of, you then find yourself in a particular position of how do we strategize and how do we relate with other people. Then eventually there is no support coming in which you expected or which the other people anticipated could provide you, because they're not very sure of how to do it.
Yes. Thank you.
Okay, I just wanted to maybe add on that, and in terms of not knowing what to say, what to do, it doesn't matter which side of the family would not know what to. I think what's good is if people don't know what to say, it's better possibly to say it out and say, I don't know what to say, rather than, I think what's painful is the words. I've got a statement that, God created a language so beautifully which can be used actually to kill somebody. Does that make sense? Because then instead of people, maybe saying, okay, I'll just observe, they will come with words which are so painful, so hateful, and throw them at you. Instead of saying, yes, possibly I can understand people saying, it's just like death. Half the time we don't know how to console somebody who has lost a loved one. And I prefer for people to say, listen, I don't know what to say, but I'm just here. Because at times that's what I just need. Rather than come and then you start telling me, oh, no, maybe he should have married somebody, all those which I don't want to hear, because those are the various voices I was talking about, which would just creating war in my mind. Then I end up now being in a state where I don't even know what to do. And it doesn't matter which side of the family comes from. It comes from everywhere, because people are gifted with a language which is beautiful, but unfortunately it can also be hurtful.
Thank you. Now I want to read the book even more.
Yes,
Thank
please do. Thank you so much. I think it's Bemisola. I hope I'm saying that correctly. You
Yes,
can
you
go
are.
ahead. Thank
Yes,
you.
well, I just wanted to commend my dear sister Essie for your bravery, for opening up to us, because it honestly takes a lot of courage to be able to share your experience, you and your husband. And congratulations. The question I was going to ask, you've already covered it. It was all about family. If you were really supported, or if you felt that you were being castigated or antagonized because of the issues you've had. But I think you've more or less covered it. So I think there's no point asking that question again. I was just going to ask how you were supported in that area, but you've more or less covered it really. So it's just to congratulate you once again for the boldness in writing this book, because honestly it takes a lot of guts to be able to put pen down to paper to write and share your experience. And I just want to say welcome to you both.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sister Gwemi. I think
Thank you.
Tina, if I could just add on to what Sister Gwemi said in terms of family. At the moment, now that I belong to a Bible believing church, you also find you've got family there, because there are some people who will be able to go into some places and you find there is a family which is like family away from home, who can actually help you where you have issues which you are unable to deal with. And for me, when I came to the United Kingdom, there was no family like that, possibly until we moved to London and we found a family of God. And that's another very strong spine if the people in there are very, very good people, which can support you, without a shadow of doubt. And that's very, very helpful as well in terms of family, because when we are very far away from home, that can also be very, very difficult, especially even for those who have got kids, young kids. You would also need people who can actually maybe mold you and mentor you into how you look after those children. So that's what we can do, because we are all now scattered everywhere across the globe.
No, yeah, definitely. Thank you so much for that response, Auntie. I'm not sure if there's anyone else who has a question, but I can always hand over to the author to read maybe an excerpt from the book. You want to read something so people can get familiar? Just a page or so. Oh, sorry, Tatiana has just raised a hand. I think after Tatiana, then you can do your reading. Thank you, Tatiana. You can go ahead.
Well done, Essie. I'm so happy and excited for the book. I just wanted to ask you both. So, what advice would you give like young people who are single, not married, but they're gonna come across these kind of situations in the future? Like, what advice in a few sentences that you could give?
Okay. Thank you, Tatiana. So my advice for somebody who's young, possibly unmarried, is to actually have a role model couple who can mentor you into that. Because I know we do business mentorship, work mentorship, or body, and everything else. Then when it comes to things like marriage, we don't have that. Because then when you face challenges, that's where you feel alone. Because for us, when we faced those challenges, we were going to church, but for me, I wasn't a believer then. Yes, I was going to church, and church for me was a church full of rules, which I didn't even see working. And, it just made me think, okay, this is a ruling church, and it has nothing to do with maybe being born again. But when I got born again, I actually benefited quite a lot from mentorship, programs which are run through church. So whether it's a program being run through church or whether they are marriage seminars, there are some marriage seminars which are run by possibly coaching psychologists or whatever, if you don't believe and you don't want them to be church-based. But I suppose when we look at things like marriage, and marriage is based from the Bible. So if it's based from the Bible, that means, you need to be able to have somebody who can walk with you that journey, but who can also give you room for you to have an input which gives you growth, because you have to contribute to that. It's not just getting somebody, some mentorship. You also need to be able to get some things on your own, just like you would do learning. You are not going to be spoon-fed. You need to be able to learn each other. And the best thing, as Mark said earlier on, is actually communication. If the two of you are communicating, then, that helps everything, because most of the things Whether you're going to have financial problems, whether you're going to be having relative intruders, it doesn't matter. It all stems from communication. How do you relate to each other? How are you interacting? Are you interacting from a point of understanding first before you can answer, or are you listening? Are you not listening? So those are the issues which I would actually advise anybody to do. Just seek understanding first from the other person and see what they think you are supposed to do, and then you put yourself in their shoes as well for you to understand their point of view first before you can now put your own solution or your own point across. That way it gives you, debate, and it also gives you growth, because it doesn't mean you have to agree. Possibly you have to agree to disagree, but at least you have listened and understood the other person's point of view. Honey?
Well said. She covered everything.
Awesome. I think we've already gone into an hour, so I think if the author can just read for us maybe a page or two, and then we can start winding up the session. Thank you so much.
Okay. So I'm just going to read possibly chapter 1. Chapter 1 is titled My Elusive Gift, but I'm just going to start it into children make your life important. This is a statement which was said by somebody called Emma Bombeck. When they say that children make our lives important, but you unfortunately do not have any children of your own, your life may seem not so important after all. The reality is that this is my story, a life of feeling that my life is not worth living because there are no children to make it worth living and important. When your life is not important, you do not care about anything, as life is not worth living. The African social construct subscribes to the notion that women's identity comes from having children, and the levels of societal respect are determined by how many children one has. Identity is usually a big thing, especially where I come from, where it is always tied to the clan lineage and heirship. When you don't know where you come from, it is difficult to know where you are going, and that is worrisome. However, when you are a believer, then you are assured of your identity in whom you believe, but that is not the sort of identity I'm going to talk about. Here I am talking about your genealogy. In the void of the fruits of my womb, I stopped dreaming and I suppressed my creativity. I diverted to working very hard and taking care of everyone except me. I suppressed my emotions and feelings, which turned into anger. I also suppressed my ambitions because I was afraid of being judged, and all I wanted at this point was just to fit in. On the other side of life, I became dysfunctional because I had lost hope, failing to grasp my life's purpose, no children to look after, and although I had many dependents, that did not matter much or help a great deal. Depression does not talk. It manifests in so many ways, and mostly people do not even realize it. There I was, in depression. I became a mere symbol for human connection, being available, approachable, supportive, caring, nurturing for other people, yet I was isolated, separated, lonely, and deeply saddened, with no drive or zeal for life. Because I could not have children, I felt like my life was not important, and without notice, I had succumbed to the brutal societal dictate. Humans have a great way of suppressing unpleasant emotions, and preacher Jimmy Evans calls these hate pockets. I held on to the large hate pocket of suppressed feelings and emotions, and met goals, broken dreams, and wishes and failures, coupled with great anger. The Italian poet Dante Alighieri in the Divine Comedy says, "Consider your origin. You were not formed to live like brutes, but to follow virtue and knowledge." What Dante was telling us is we are not on this earth to be monsters, but to be vessels of moral excellence with a conscious awareness. But how am I going to instill the highest caliber of moral excellence if I am not identified with any offspring to my name? In my growing up, I always thought I would want to have children, then I leave my mark on this earth, which is what Emma Bombeck said. Children are important for my life. However, I could not consider that any children could be important for my life because I was dead focused on having my own. Where I grew up, you are often identified by the name of your firstborn. The first person you deliver into the world becomes the name people call you by. For example, if your firstborn was Nathaniel, you become my Nathaniel, simply meaning Nathaniel's mother. For many years, I looked forward to that day when things would eventually change and the whole world will know me by my child's name. Unfortunately, few years became 5 and 5 became 10. Just like that, 3 decades had passed, but still no one called me by my child's name because that child never came. What started as the natural expectation in a girl child who graduates into a mother had slipped and disappeared from the warm embrace of my heart. An emptiness created by the loss of femininity had been filled with anger as I found myself battling with emotional distress. My days were filled with forcing myself to be natural and keeping up appearances despite fluctuating moods. One thing I never prepared for was the day I will always need to explain to people why there's no first, second, third, and fourth born. No one really prepares you for this. There are no specialist classes you can attend to get yourself equipped to dealing with heartbreaking life events. Being a midwife, I understand the physiological, physical, emotional, and psychological changes which happen when a woman gets pregnant. Therefore, I should have been the one to understand the joy women realize in bringing forth these little bundles of joy into the world. But I battled with being in places where women seemed to have a life centered on children. It appeared as if these women chose to be in the same circles as I was. They spoke about their children, and their lives appeared to revolve around their children. It became unbearable, such that I kept asking myself, don't they have something else to talk about? When I was in Africa, I used to think that women have to talk about children because it was a cultural seal of approval that the husband had paid for a productive wife. The thoughts that would start to manifest in any person who is undergoing emotional turmoil are at most dysfunctional and a danger to self. I moved from Africa and felt I'm no longer on anyone's radar, therefore I will not be reminded of my emptiness. When I started mingling in my new circle of friends and associates, I had a rude awakening. The ghost of the past resurfaced. Every new woman I met would have the same question for me. How many children do you have? My response was always a rushed one, and that is, I do not have any. The haste was a hope that I would either leave the person or move away from that subject. Before I know it, again I was trapped by another question. Do you not want children? Are you married? Why are you not having children? Questions came faster than I could answer, and the directness often shocked me and reminded me of the void I was trying so hard to forget. Soon, I realized that this subject had no geographical confinement. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much for that. Definitely, anyone who has not yet read it, like we said, where you can get it, but really, it's absolutely amazing, and it really opened up your eyes and your perspective on certain things. So I would recommend it to anyone. And now I think we're just gonna finish up. I think it's already been over an hour, but thank you so much, everyone, for your time. And let us know if you have any trouble looking for the book or anything like that. But thank you so much for your time, and get as many people to support the book as well. And we look forward to just more books and more book launches, and to see you again soon. I don't know if Auntie Essie, do you have anything you want to say in closing?
Yes, I want to thank everybody who has graced this occasion. Tatiana, Sister Doyne, Diana, Etle, Gwemisola, Brother Muiwa, Tete Gladys, Mzukuru Stokozile Mumbeshora, and I can't see who else is, I think that was Muiwa. Yeah, so thank you so much for coming, and it has been really, really great for you guys to come and grace this occasion, and I wish you all blessings upon your lives, and may God bless your coming in and your going out, and have a blessed week. Thank you.
Amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank you so much. Have a good
Thank
afternoon.
you.
God bless you.
Thank
you.
you.
Thank
Thank you.
Oh,
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye. Thank you.
thank you.
This time wadzingwa. Tete Gladys wanga achida kuonekera.